Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because, wow, do we have a genuinely chilling piece of lore to unpack today. We're going to dive deep into the dark legend of Arthur and Blackwood Manor. If you're a fan of architectural horror, cursed artifacts, and, uncovering things that probably should have stayed hidden, well, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to retrace the exact timeline of a midnight encounter that is just as fascinating as it is terrifying. So let's jump right in.
Okay, to set the stage, I want to start with a quote straight from our source material. "The time has come to pay the debt." Oof, gives you chills, right? I wanted to put this right up front because it perfectly establishes the extremely dark stakes of today's analysis. As we're going to see, this isn't just your standard spooky house story. No, this is a meticulously constructed trap built entirely on an unpaid debt. So keep that quote in the back of your mind as we walk through exactly what happened on that fateful night.
Section 1. The Curse of Blackwood Manor. All right, so picture this. You've got this totally isolated estate, right? It's perched dangerously on a foggy cliff looking out over this roaring northern sea. The heavy oak doors of this imposing place had been completely sealed shut for 40 long years. Not a soul going in or out. But here is where Arthur comes in. Arthur is an antiquarian, and his fatal flaws are basically his unrelenting intellectual curiosity mixed with, well, a pretty heavy dose of greed. Now, the locals absolutely warned him. They told him straight up that the house was cursed, claiming that literally no one who entered after dusk ever spoke again. But Arthur, he completely ignored the folklore. He gets the key, pops open those 40-year-old doors, and steps inside. His flashlight cuts through these thick layers of damp dust, and right away, the atmosphere is just hostile. The air literally tastes like rot, copper, and salt. But he pushes past all the decaying furniture and the mysteriously shrouded mirrors because he is looking for one specific thing. Section 2. The Astronomical Clock.
So Arthur finally reaches the central grand hall, and there it is, the exact artifact he'd spent weeks trying to track down. Guys, we are talking about a totally magnificent piece of 18th century craftsmanship here. It's built out of dark mahogany and intricate brass gears, and it stands as tall as a pine tree. But what makes this clock so vital to our explainer today is the incredibly dark folklore surrounding its creator, a man named Silas Blackwood. The legend actually says that Silas didn't just build a clock, he literally trapped a demon inside the mechanism. And why on earth would he do that? Well, to grant the clock eternal life, meaning it would absolutely never, ever need to be wound. And this is where things get really airy, because we have this bizarre contrast in the scene Arthur just walked into. It's 11:45 p.m. As Arthur reaches out to touch the clock's carved frame, the howling wind outside just stops. Completely abruptly. A suffocating, heavy silence drops over the entire house. But despite the manor being dead and abandoned for decades, the clock itself is running perfectly. Its brass hands are moving smoothly, and the pendulum is swinging with this slow, heavy beat. Just tick-tock, tick-tock. It's this wild juxtaposition, right? Total dead isolation all around him, but this timepiece is practically alive.
Section 3. The Midnight Encounter. Okay, so the very second Arthur makes physical contact with that carved frame, the environment doesn't just react to him, it attacks. The rhythm completely shifts. We go from that slow, steady beat to this sudden, terrifying acceleration. The pendulum starts swaying way faster. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. And it's not just the speed that's alarming, it's the noise. The brass gears inside start groaning, and the source describes the sound as eerily reminiscent of a human joint popping violently out of place. Yeah. Arthur immediately steps back and raises his flashlight into the dark. And then, coming from deep within the wooden housing of the clock, there's a whisper. It actually calls his name, Arthur. The voice is described as being totally dry, sounding literally like dead leaves scraping across concrete. Obviously, Arthur freezes. His heart is hammering against his ribs, and his voice cracks as he demands to know who's there. And the voice rustles right back, closer this time, repeating that phrase we looked at earlier. The time has come to pay the debt. All of a sudden, Arthur's flashlight just flickers and dies. He is plunged into absolute blackness. Pure panic sets in. He's fumbling around for his lighter, hands shaking wildly, and with the very first orange spark from the flint, the true horror of the situation is revealed. First, the glass face of the clock is cracked, and standing right behind that clear glass, pressed up against it from the inside, is this impossibly pale face.
It has hollow, pitch-black sockets where its eyes should be, and its mouth is stretched incredibly wide in a frozen scream. Arthur is so shocked he drops the lighter, which actually catches a scrap of old carpet on fire, casting this really dim, flickering glow across the room. Next, the wooden doors of the clock burst violently open. And finally, these long, spidery limbs made of twisted brass and dark flesh start crawling out. This entity pulls itself right into the room, suspended 6 feet off the ground by these thin metallic wires attached to the shadows on the ceiling. Arthur doesn't even hesitate. He turns and sprints for the front entrance. He grabs the iron handle of that massive oak door and yanks it with everything he has, but it is not budging. It literally feels like it's been welded shut. And right behind him, that horrific popping rhythmic sound is getting deafeningly loud. Click-clack, click-clack, click-clack. The entity's joints are clicking in absolute perfect rhythm with the clock's rapidly swinging pendulum. Arthur presses his back against the locked door, totally trapped. The air goes ice cold. The little fire on the carpet dies out, leaving him with only the pale moonlight filtering through the stained glass windows. And then the creature crouches directly above him on the wall. Its metallic fingers are twitching, its face hovering just inches from Arthur's, washing him in this cold breath that smells like wet earth. And it hisses the ultimate revelation. Silas locked us in the dark. He promised a substitute when the 40 years ended. Your curiosity was our invitation. And boom, the trap is finally explained. That 40-year seal on the manor, it wasn't to keep people out. It was a timer, just sitting there, waiting for a replacement. Section 4, the final chime. Just as the creature drops this horrifying truth about Silas Blackwood's twisted bargain, the towering astronomical clock begins to strike midnight. Let's methodically break down what happens in Arthur's final seconds here. On the first strike of the chime, 1, Arthur tries to scream, but total vocal paralysis sets in. Not a single sound escapes his throat. On the second strike, 2, the creature's brass fingers reach out and press against Arthur's chest, inexplicably sinking right through his coat and skin, as if they were made of water. And on the third strike, 3, Arthur feels his very own heartbeat align perfectly with the rhythm of the clock. His vision dims, and his soul is slowly, methodically pulled right through that cold metal and completely absorbed into the dark gearwork of the towering timepiece. Now, fast forward to the next morning, and the horror of midnight is sharply contrasted by this really deceptive calm. The dense fog has finally cleared over Blackwood Manor. That heavy oak front door, which was welded shut by supernatural force just hours ago, it's now standing slightly ajar. Inside the grand hall, everything is perfectly still. The house is completely quiet, except for one thing: the steady, rhythmic sound of the grand clock. The violent, rapid ticking from the night before has completely vanished, returning to its normal, slow, steady pace. But there is one permanent change to the manor. The source material leaves us with this absolutely chilling final detail. If you were to walk in and look behind the glass face of the pendulum in the morning light, sealed within the dark wood forever, you'd find a brand new addition to the clock's intricate carvings, a brand new wooden figurine standing absolutely motionless, holding a tiny brass lantern. It is a terrifying, totally silent testament to Arthur's fate. Which really leaves us with this final lingering thought. Arthur's intellectual curiosity, his burning need to uncover the secrets of the past, even when all the warnings were blaring at him, was exactly what the dark forces of Blackwood Manor were banking on. It was his invitation. Now, you've sat through this explainer today, driven by your own curiosity to understand this dark lore. So, what will yours cost?